Hello, my lovely people. I'm a little bit, very rare for me to be under the weather, but I'm a little bit under the weather today. Maybe it was some gas station, sorry, sushi station. I don't know, gas station sushi last night. Anywho, here I am. Let's talk about what happened this week. A couple of big things did happen. I know the market is chopsolidating. We'll talk about that too. I'm doing some new modeling as well around the ETFs, a little bit of an update on the supply demand imbalance for Bitcoin. And I found somebody who has nearly the same projections I have about the amount of Bitcoin that are lost, which is really cool. I want to say a big shout out to Sean Donnelly and TND Tesla for being here. Now, Friday, this is weird, where good news is bad news again, instead of the normal way where bad news is bad news. But Friday, we had a job report and it showed 256,000 jobs, I think, were added in December, above expectations of 153,000, I think. But remember, the job data is all BS, and they'll revise it down in 3 to 4 months, as always. I guess the current administration wants to leave with a bang, like things are great. But we shall see. Anyway, let's get into the story today. I want to talk a lot about Bitcoin, a lot about a new ChatGPT moment that's coming for the world and how you need to position yourself. I'm going to talk about Avalanche, SUI, Solana a little bit, and what else is happening in crypto, a little bit on NVDA and more. And this is not financial advice. Thank you to everybody on Patreon. Let's get into the Bitcoin black hole. I did warn you, my brain is not 100% today. First of all, January is flat so far. Literally, as I speak, January is 0% up and 0% down. And we are now looking at a price of $94,880 on the nose, just shy of 95K. And weekends typically are good, but again, who knows? I think, as I've been saying for weeks now, we're in a holding pattern until the 20th of January, which is only 9 days away. That's when the new president comes in. I think people are nervous right now. They want to make sure nothing breaks before the 20th of January. No war breaks out. No states go on fire. Whoops, that did happen actually. Anyway, we'll try and be good. First, let's look at this. This is a cool chart from Algorithm. And he broke down, or she, whoever it is, broke down the actual breakdown of Bitcoin holdings, which is fascinating. And I've been tracking this for years, actually since 2017, when I started getting really obsessed with Bitcoin. But just looking at the breakdown here, you will see a couple of things. The Bitcoin distribution, which is completely fascinating. Again, it got my attention. Good Lord, that's, how long is that? 7, 8 years ago? But I was always tracking how many Bitcoin were lost. This chart, normally I put in the lost Bitcoin into one category. I add the Satoshi Bag of 1.1 million on top of the rest, the other 3.9 million that are lost. But now, per this chart from Algorithm, he says 3.6 million Bitcoin are lost, and there's 1.1 million in the Satoshi Bag that will never probably come back to life. And that means total 4.7 million, which is 300,000 Bitcoin off what I call my 5 million Bitcoin lost. As I say, there will never be more than 15 million Bitcoin, because even as these were lost way back in time, many of them, people are still losing the Bitcoin today. They're sending it to wallets that don't exist, etc. It is crazy. When you look at the other breakdown, you got 57% held by individuals, 3.6% held by companies like MicroStrategy, 3.9% held by ETFs, 2.7% held by governments, and a lot of FUD flying around about the US government selling Bitcoin before the 20th. I don't know if it's true or not. I can't find definitive answers, so I'm not talking about it. Not yet mined, about 6.6%. Satoshi's Bag is 5.2%, and the miners hold about 3.4%. And again, that magical 17.4% is lost. And the reason I stress this is, as Satoshi said way back when, 16 years ago, any lost Bitcoin is a gift to other Bitcoin holders. Okay, remember that. Now, the reason we're talking about this is there's big changes in Bitcoin land that happened in 2024, and it'll continue to happen. But what's interesting is the Bitcoin ETFs were dominated by US flows. 67% of all the money came from the United States into these things. That's why I shared in a chart yesterday that the US is actually dominating the actual holdings of Bitcoin now, and how the world has changed so fast. Now, what's also interesting to note is from James here. We've got two Jameses, star 3 in the show today. We'll talk about those. But this is James Seyford. He talked about how big was the first year for Bitcoin ETFs. The answer is massive. You can see here's a list of the largest ETFs 1 year after they launched, and IBIT rocking it. And you can see of the historic top 20 ETF launches of all time, IBIT, Fidelity, Bitcoin, ARK, and Bitwise are all in the top 20. That is pretty incredible. Now, what I want to share here is, and a shout out as well to Sanjay as well, that gets me all of this information, sends me about 300 pieces a day that I weave through and create a tapestry. And this is what you are eating now, the tapestry. Anyway, Bitcoin ETFs in 2025. What's going to happen? And this is a chart considering it's from Bitwise, which is one of the top 20 ETFs now, and they're brand new, just a year old. The black lines here on the chart are the gold analogy, the gold ETF when it launched. And you can see gold ETF started slow, and then it grew, and it doubled, and then doubled, and grew. And then it had a great year in year 6. We'll talk more about why that happens in a minute too. But the question is, what will happen in year 2 for Bitcoin? If gold is the analogy, the results should be much bigger. So we had 36 billion come in 2024. And if I was to look at gold here as an analog, we should double, which would take us to nearly 80 billion. But instead, I decided to model just 40 billion, which is just 4 billion more than what came in last year. And remember, last year was a new year, a lot of uncertainties. And we're coming into a pro-crypto government in the United States. And I can't stress that enough. It's very, very big. We didn't have a pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin government last year. We do this year, which is going to, I think, help this. So what I did was, instead of assuming we double, I assumed we'd go up 4 billion from 36 to 40 billion, very modest. And I plugged it into my multiplier model. And the IA multiplier from 2021 is exactly 21, which I backed into from the Tesla purchase of Bitcoin of 1.5 billion. Wow, have things changed. It's amazing. Sailor spends that in a week sometimes these days. DBF 430, appreciate you in Australia. But plugging this into my model, again, assuming never more than 15 million Bitcoin, if the ETFs spend a mere another 40 billion in 2025, that would bring the price, again, of Bitcoin to 149,000. The multiplier adds about 56,000 to the price. And remember, that multiplier is probably a lot higher now because Bitcoin's a lot scarcer. I'll show you that in the next chart. If you take double the 21 multiplier because it's post-halving, so the 21 goes to 42 because there's only 450 Bitcoin issued a day, when it was a 900 when I did the 21 multiplier. That's why you double the multiplier. That would add $112,000 to the price, take us to about $205,000 in 2025. Crazy. And it's funny because when I backed into these numbers, I was like, the people that do talk about 200K Bitcoin don't sound too crazy anymore. And this is only assuming the 7 Bitcoin ETFs, nothing else, nobody else buying, no Sailor, no nothing else. And if we use the 56x multiplier, which is kind of, I believe, my North Star where we should be right now, given supply and demand and the amount of exchanges and the hardness of the asset, that would take us to 242,000. I don't know if any of this is going to work, but I definitely think if the ETFs follow gold and we go to at least 40 billion, the price of Bitcoin should definitely hit $149,000. That's my math. This model has been very, very precise. And in fact, I've backed into all of the money flow from last year and it nailed the return, but using 56, not 42 and not 21 as the multiplier. Now, why does this matter? And that is this: the supply-demand imbalance of Bitcoin. This chart here encapsulates this exact imbalance from James Van Straten, the second James mentioned today. The coins that have not moved in over 10 years, Sir Winston, appreciate you, thank you. Coins that have not moved in over 10 plus years, it's about 3.3 million of them, they're probably lost, okay? They're gone forever. Versus coins and exchanges, 2.8 million. And remember, nearly 400,000 Bitcoin have left exchanges since November. 400,000 since November. It's only January. It just fell off a cliff. This is a good sign because it shows that maybe, theoretically, the supply crunch could happen. And tracking the exchange balance is hard, but if you use this as a gauge, as James says, it's indicative of the demand right now. The demand for Bitcoin is high. The whales are stacking. Retail tourists came in and came out over the last month. Doesn't matter. This is an institutional game right now. The amount as well, the yellow line, keeps going up every single month because more and more coins will never move because they are lost. LOST. Now, the other interesting angle of all of this, I kind of feel more comfortable not showing my face. I should do this more often. It's easier to think when I don't have to think about how I'm looking. Anyway, Bitcoin demand. This is the funny thing too. This is a cool little chart. Right now, Bitcoin is just shy of 100,000. It's 94.8, 94.7. But nobody's really that interested. Retailers aren't interested. But the larger the asset class gets, the more it attracts investors. The more they trust it, the more stable it becomes, the more reliable it becomes, the more real it becomes. Therefore, the demand for Bitcoin at a higher price than today will be higher. But the supply will be scarcer. That's why this asset is completely fascinating. And there's more, talking a bit about the Chopsolidation that we are in right now. You can see the Bitcoin, every time it drops to the low 90s, like 92, 91, the bid is aggressive. People snap that up. We're not sure who they are. We're not sure if they're OTC desks or sovereigns, but somebody is definitely buying every time it dips. And the price has been chopping between 90K and 100K for the last 2 months, pretty much. Sometimes it goes to 102, 103K, and then falls back down to the low 90s, which is kind of healthy. Now, if we look back at the previous bull market, okay, it took us 9 months to test the 10,000 level, with delays, of course, due to C19. But you can see very clearly the Chopsolidation period back then. Many believe, though, this cycle is very different because of the flows. A lot more money is coming in. It's an established asset. We now have a pro-crypto government coming in. I don't believe we'll be Chopsolidating down here for too long, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you to our brilliant mods in the chat. Appreciate you turning up. Now, another quick Bitcoin chart too from Axel. The market will become overheated when the index typically reaches 95th percentile. I forgot to show our Tabby model, but that corresponds to this too, very dark red. At this point, when it does get up here, where those green dots are, that's when you need to get nervous. And we are nowhere near being overheated, that I will stress once again. But we also have to always monitor the ETF flows, both in and out, and what's happening with players like MicroStrategy, and what's happening with retail as well. But either way, we are not in a correction phase. We're very far from that, and we're not in an overheated phase whatsoever. So we'll continue to plug along. And again, you always have to be in the market for the top 10 days where the action happens. And that's why if you're not in the market for those top 10 days, it can feel very boring and frustrating. But that's why one of the most important things in investing is having patience, ladies and gentlemen. You pack your bags and you wait. You wait for those times to strike and take your profits. Now, this is also from Eric Balchunas. This is a new thing coming out. Tuttle just filed for a bunch of single stock 0-day covered call ETFs for Tesla, NVDA, and MicroStrategy. It's funny, as well as IBIT. Just those players. You see a pattern here, everybody? I happen to hold all of them except for IBIT. I don't have any of that. But anyway, it's interesting. And I hear you ask, what the hell are 0-day options? Well, these are options contracts that expire on the same day they are traded. Basically, it's just designed to trade around the intraday volatility. And it's only intrinsic value, and it makes them extremely sensitive to the price moves of the underlying asset on the day of trading. But again, this will bring more volume, more vitality, more action to these assets, Tesla, NVIDIA, MicroStrategy. It's going to be fun to watch them play out as well. So if you do see a massive market maker sell-off or liquidation hunt for things like IBIT during the day, it might be interesting to play these puppies. Watch mean reversion as well on IADSS. That can help you identify those killer bottoms. Next, some crazy stuff happening. This is from Caitlin Long. I'm digesting all of this, including references to Custodia Bank. Don't forget that Custodia applied for FDIC insurance in November 2021. And we knew Bloomberg would block it, but we applied nonetheless, and it got blocked. And these are the same people that shut down, I can't remember the name, but the big crypto bank as well. But a lot of shady stuff has been happening now with the FDIC. You're beginning to see, as I say, the truth will always come out and float to the surface. Now, this whole whistleblower report is exposing mid and senior level FDIC executives, not just for corruption and abuse and cover-ups, but also a whole bunch of sexual assault and crazy things. I won't list any names here, but I did read into it, and it's like, oh my God, how are these people even trusted to regulate any institution when they are so shady themselves? So again, don't trust government at all. And shout out to Marty Party, friend of the channel, DCA member. He pointed out that $1 billion of USDC minted in just 2 days on Solana. Where is this money going to go? Yep, you guessed it. It's going to go into crypto. Now, speaking of crypto and Solana, we have another player, SUI, just flipped Avalanche. And you can see SUI is now number 11, soon to be number 10. It's either going to flip Tron or Cardano. Cardano doesn't belong up there. I've been saying that for a long time, since 2021. And here we are. And in fact, the data for Avalanche is actually better than that for Cardano, believe it or not. And I'll share that data right now. This is our little face-off. This is SUI versus Avalanche. And just for perspective, SUI just flipped Avalanche, all right? But it does 65x the transactions, or it has 65x the speed transactions per second. It does 12.2x the daily transactions. It has over 10x the daily active users. And the users on the chain do more per day, which is crazy. Now, I hear you ask, where does Sol fit in? Well, Sol as well, what's stunning, if you look at the fully diluted market cap right now between Sol and SUI, Solana is only 1.2x SUI on a per user basis. So Sol is valued at about $20,000 per daily active user on a fully diluted market cap basis, and SUI is about 65K. But I'll do more on those face-offs with more details soon. But SUI has done really well, but I still believe Solana is far cheaper at this stage. Again, based on just metrics and data, but it shows you that even with metrics like a chain that does 65x more, 12x more, and 10x more, just becomes the same valuation is bonkers. Hey, Andy in Australia, thank you for coming. And a shout out to all the Australians. Happy Sunday to you guys. Now, in other news too, the big event that happened this week is Jensen Huang said the ChatGPT moment for general robotics is just around the corner. That means humanoid robots. We are here. This is him on stage with about 14 of them. And it's just around the corner. This guy knows. He has visibility into exactly what's going on. And why do we care? Well, in full disclosure, I own NVIDIA and I own Tesla, but my Tesla position is larger. But Jensen also said Tesla is the leader in humanoid robots, it's the leader in autonomous vehicles. So let's get this straight for a second. And shout out as well to Tesla Economics. But make sure, all the stuff that happened. Elon thinks humanoid robots will be the biggest product in history by far. Optimus is the best robot. It has the most sophistication. It's got the best brain. And its hand has 22 degrees of freedom, which is basically, it is more freedom than I have in my left hand, to be honest. And it mimics a human. And Tesla will build 5 to 10,000 this year, and they will be working in factories. In 2026, they'll build 50 to 100,000. That's 10x. And then in 2027, another 10x, 500,000 to a million. And if you think Tesla's overvalued, you're missing the implication scale and the profit potential of humanoid robots. I've been hammering it on for a long time. This is crazy. And remember, just like the big Bitcoin days, risk happens fast. There will be big Tesla days, I guarantee you, over the next 12 to 24 months that will melt your faces. So pack a bag if you don't have one. Not financial advice, of course, but I do believe in the story. And I do believe, as Jensen says, I've been saying for a long time, he says the ChatGPT moment for humanoid robots is right around the corner. I don't know if that means tomorrow or a month from now or 6 months from now, but when he says right around the corner, that sounds pretty close. I want to thank everybody for joining. Appreciate you all. Sorry for not feeling too good today. And happy Saturday and happy Sunday to those in Australia and New Zealand and Asia and India. Thank you, Sean Donnelly. Thank you, Team D Tesla. Yeah, everybody wants their own robot. So do I. I want a dog and a robot. That'd be fantastic. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for coming. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Q&A, live Q&A in about 22 hours. Good night.